Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 8 playthrough of the New York Islanders. We are at the start of the 2028 to 2029 season. After winning 3 consecutive Stanley Cups, our quest for a fourth ended in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So the streak of Stanley Cup wins is over. That said, in 7 years as the Islanders general manager, we have won those 3 Stanley Cups. And even though there won't be 4 in a row, our goal is to still win a fourth Stanley Cup championship this season and hopefully match what the Islanders of the early 1980s were able to do, even if we can't win all of them in a row. It was a relatively quiet off-season for the Islanders. We're kind of up against the cap, have a veteran team that we really like. The most significant move was trading away our veteran defenseman Adam Pelech, who was in the last year of his contract in his early 30s, making a lot of money and not as productive as he used to be. So we did trade him away. And the only real acquisition we made was a somewhat younger defenseman to replace him, Ryan Johnson, formerly of the Sabres, picked him up, and we are paying him about $4.4 million a year for the next 3 years. So given that our President's Trophy winning roster from last season is largely intact, the goal is obviously to hopefully secure home ice advantage during the regular season and then make another long playoff run that hopefully results in a Stanley Cup this season. That is the goal. And our team is getting a little long in the tooth in terms of age. We've got a very high quality team, but we do have 4 key free agents coming up this offseason that we have not been able to re-sign yet. And given salary cap issues, probably aren't going to be able to bring all of them back. So this could be the last time with this crew together. Notably, Miro Heiskanen, who we made a big trade for last season, is in the last year of his $8.5 million a year contract. Anthony Beauvillier, a longtime Islander, in the last year of his contract. He's in his early 30s now. Alexander Campbell, 27-year-old goalie, also in the final year of his contract. And then Martin Necas, one of the people who we really built this rebuild and ultimate dynasty around, also in the last year of his contract. So will be some big decisions to make after this season. But the goal as we begin the 2028-2029 season is to hopefully set ourselves up for another long playoff run with this crew of Islanders, led by our captain, Matthew Barzal, who continues to move up the all-time Islander rankings in terms of the production over the course of his career. And as a 5-star player, 31 years old, still has potential to be adding to those numbers for the next several seasons. You can see we still have him signed for this year and next year at this point. Well, we've simmed ahead through the first several weeks of the season to get to November 1st, and not a great start for the Islanders. Tied for last in the Metropolitan Division with just 7 points, but we have righted the ship a little bit. We started 0-4, and we're 3-0-1 in our last 4 games. So after a very slow start to the regular season, we're getting closer to getting back to 500. And with the talent we have on this team, I would view the slow start to the season as more an aberration than a sign that this team has just fallen off the cliff. But we will know more about that in the coming weeks. Well, the Islanders have played another month. We're into the month of December now. The season's already more than a quarter finished. Played a little better in November, going 7-4-2. But if the playoffs were to start today, we were still actually on the outside looking in with just 23 points through 21 games. So definitely need to start playing better. You can see looking at the team, 75 goals for us, 72 goals against. So we're just not really playing that well. And you can kind of also see it if you look at the standings. We've got nobody kind of in the top 8 in the league in any of the scoring categories, and our goalies aren't standing out so far either. So hopefully it's not a situation where everyone's getting old at the same time, and we're going to be a team that struggles to get into the playoffs. I don't think that's the case. I think we're just having a little bit of a slow start, but pretty confident that we're still going to bounce back and start really separating from the pack in the Metropolitan Division in the Eastern Conference in the coming weeks. And we've now simmed ahead to mid-December, and you can see the Islanders are now second in the Metropolitan Division, playing our best hockey of the season at this point. Perique is now sixth in the league in goals against average and eighth in save percentage. And you can see that Noel Gunler and Matthew Barzal are both in the top 8 in the league in scoring. And Barzal and Bouvillier are tied for 7th in the league in assists. So the offense is really starting to crank. Just kind of looking, our goal differential since we last checked in has gone from +3 to +20. So the Islanders are playing Islanders hockey again, finally, which is a good sign. The bad sign is that we just suffered a very significant injury. Our young center, Matthew Savoy, out for at least 10 months with a concussion. So that is something that could have a significant impact on his career. 19 points in 28 games for us. He's our former second overall pick in the draft. So he is not yet at this point one of the most important cogs of the offense, although you can see, he scored 31 and 22 goals in each of the last 2 seasons. Was scoring at a bit slower pace this year, but still a productive player for us. But not optimal that he is gone for the entire regular season, the entire postseason, and our best hope is that we will have him back for the start of the 2029 to 2030 season, and hopefully this injury will not be something that has a significant impact on his career. And to replace Matthew Savoy, we're going to bring up Noah Dower Nielsen, who we signed this past off-season out of the Swedish League. He has been tearing it up for us in Bridgeport, probably too good a player for Bridgeport, with 32 points and 13 goals in 36 games, +21 ±. So although he is not Savoy, hopefully he is someone who will be able to really contribute to our team at the NHL level. And he'll get an extended opportunity up there with Savoy out for the rest of the year. So we'll see what Dower Nielsen can do for the big club. And just a couple days later, in another major injury for the Islanders, defenseman Noah Dobson out for at least 5 months with a fractured knee. So 2 significant injuries for the Islanders. You can see the blue liner over the last 3 full seasons has been +20, +29, and +24. A pretty good defenseman for our team. So definitely will be a loss to lose Dobson. So we will see whether the Islanders and us have built up enough depth in our minor league system to be able to kind of continue to thrive despite the major injuries to Dobson and Savoy over the past several days. And looking at our minor league system, we're going to bring up John Ludwig, versatile stay-at-home defenseman, spent the last year and a half for us in Bridgeport, but you can see he's got a 15 defensive rating overall, and looking at his overall ratings, definitely a solid stay-at-home defenseman. Will be the 7th defenseman on the team, so certainly probably not going to be playing every day for the Islanders, but I think as far as someone who can come in a couple times a week and hopefully help hold down the fort, he's the best option we have with the injury to Dobson, although clearly he is not the same level player that Dobson is, but we don't need that. We just need him to be respectable here, and we've got a lot of high-powered players on the blue line with Heiskanen, Johnson, Rotundi, Pulick, Fox, and Jiricek. So Ludwig just needs to contribute a little bit when we ask him to. And the injuries are starting to build up a little bit. David Jiricek, the defenseman, out with a strained foot for 1 or 2 weeks. Obviously, that's a lot less significant than the other injuries that we've had happen to the Islanders recently. So not as worried about that. Barzal is banged up with back stiffness. Hopefully he can recover from that relatively soon and get back into the lineup. You can see he's having another quality year for us with 11 goals and 21 assists through 26 games played. But he has missed a couple games in a row with that back stiffness, unfortunately. Well, we've moved into 2029, and the Islanders did have a very good month in December, going 9-3-2, firmly in the playoff race at this point. And our goalie, Lucas Perrick, has been named Goalie of the Month while the Islanders were on that good run. As I mentioned, in the playoffs right now, but quite honestly, we're only up a couple points on the Devils and the Panthers for the last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. So things are still very tight thanks to the kind of mediocre start that the Islanders got off to. But if we continue to play well over the next month or two, hopefully any question of making the playoffs will soon be in the rear-view mirror. Looking at the roster, I guess the only positive thing that we can kind of associate with those major injuries to Savoy and Dobson is that we will have some money available over the next month and a half if we decide to dip into the trade market and bring on a big-time rental to hopefully help push us over the edge and hopefully win another Stanley Cup championship. So we're going to keep our eyes open on the trade market and who is available on the trade block, and hopefully can get something done over the next 6 or 7 weeks that will help the Islanders in our playoff push. And taking a look at the trading block, there's definitely some interesting players out there. The top, just in terms of pure ability, is Tim Stutzel of the Ottawa Senators. Can see he's been with them for the past few years, having the best year of his career at 26 years old. The German with 30 points, including 14 goals through the team's first 30 games, game score of 36. He is making about $6.5 million this year, so would just probably be able to squeeze him in under the cap while both Dobson and Savoy are injured. Savoy is definitely out for the year. Dobson, I think the best case scenario is we might be getting him back in the playoffs. So, if Dobson does come back healthy and we would need to juggle things around after we take on a big contract like Stutzel, I think that would be fine. So he's certainly someone that we're thinking about. He's in the final year of his contract, so might be a little more reasonable. Our old friends Travis Konechny and Simon Holmstrom are also available. But I think Stutzel is certainly the first one to target on for us. We are a win-now team, and he is a dynamic offensive player who may even be a little better than Savoy at this point. So bringing the versatile forward on board would potentially be a real big ad for the Islanders. So we're going to spend a little time and see if we can maybe work out a trade for him. And perhaps not surprisingly, Stutzel's price is probably going to be too high for the Islanders to reach. Tried to just put a preliminary package together to see if we could even get into the right neighborhood, and even offering Alexei Malinin, a young defenseman, the only first-round pick that we own, which is in 2031, And then our second round picks in 2029, 30, and 31, our scouts think we're not even in the right neighborhood to pick him up. So we may check back on him in a month or so, and also see if anyone else is added to the trade block in the coming weeks. And it's possible that Ottawa may end up lowering his price at some point, given that he's in the final year of his contract and they haven't signed him to an extension. But certainly seems a little pricey even for the Islanders right now, and we just don't have the capital in draft picks and young players with the focus we've had over the last couple seasons on our NHL roster at the expense of long-term development of youth. Well, we've moved into the month of February. Islanders just 7-5-1 over the last month. And the playoff position is still tenuous. We've played almost 50 games now. You can see we're fourth in the Metropolitan Division. And we're the last team in the Eastern Conference right now. So after 3 Stanley Cups in 4 years, 2 or 3 President's Trophies in that time, including the last couple seasons. Definitely a more difficult regular season than we had expected. Certainly feel that we do need to shake up the roster before the trade deadline. So we're going to continue seeing who's out there on the trading block, and if there's anything else that we can potentially think about. Definitely some interesting players out there from an offensive perspective, and we'll have to see if we can make a move in the next couple of weeks to hopefully bolster our lineup before hopefully a long playoff run this spring. As you may have noticed if you looked closely at the last screen, Mika Zibanejad is on the trade block from the Rangers. He's 35 years old, making $8.5 million a year, and he's also signed through next season. So certainly not the optimal potential pickup for us, just in terms of long-term salary cap management. But we're thinking about it. Actually, the cap hit's going to be too big for us, though. I think if this cap hit transfers over, we don't have enough room to get him on board. Although maybe we will, because we are thinking about trading away Alexander Campbell for him. You'll remember from the start of the episode that he's one of the players we haven't signed for next year. A lot younger than Zibanejad, 27 years old, but making $2.4 million this year. Looking for about $5 million next season, so we're not going to keep Campbell. So we would open up enough space if we trade Campbell, and we'd also have to give up a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick in the coming draft, as well as another 4th and a 7th also this year. So a lot of draft pick capital, but not premium capital to pick up Zibanejad. Given that we're all in for this year, and we are going to be likely moving on from Campbell anyways, we will deal with the salary cap ramifications of bringing him on in the off season, and this I think is the boldest move that we can make at this point to potentially try to really position ourselves to make a run at another Stanley Cup this year. It says that they think the Rangers will probably accept this offer, so we're going to go ahead and offer it and see what happens over the next few days. And part of the reason we're willing to potentially make the trade and take on that huge contract is that Savoy is obviously out for the year. We'll see what impact the injury has on his career and his future in the game. And Dobson is still out another 3 to 4 months, so we're going to be into late May, most likely, by the time we'd even have a chance of bringing Dobson back, and have to be dealing with some salary cap issues. So I think that, if we get into late May and we're in the Eastern Conference Finals and we have to figure out how to fit Dobson on the roster, that's a good problem to have, because it means that we are still playing important hockey late in the spring. And the Rangers have accepted our offer of Alexander Campbell and a slew of draft picks for the aging Mika Zibanejad, and we are going to go ahead and complete that trade. We are once again all in on trying to win this season, and you can see even making that trade, we are just under the salary cap. So the numbers make me think that it was meant to be, and we will see how Zibanejad can integrate into this lineup and hopefully provide a lot more offense for us as we continue in this push to hopefully get into the playoffs. And feeling even better about the trade as unfortunately Marty Necas is out with a strained PCL for 1 to 2 months. Should be back in time for the playoffs, but clearly a significant hit to the team to be losing Necas also. So hopefully we were hoping that Zibanejad would make us better, and he certainly will, but not going to make us as much better as we had hoped with Marty Necas out for probably the next 6 to 8 weeks, unfortunately. So Islanders have been banged up with some significant injuries this year to some significant players, but I think we've still got enough to get it done and get into the playoffs. And once we get there, anything can happen, as we've seen in previous years. With all the injuries, kind of wishing right now that we hadn't sent Preston Archer, who was our first-round pick last season, back to the WHL, because we could certainly use him. It was a marginal move for us, and one that we're probably regretting a little bit right now, unfortunately. So instead of bringing up Archer, we'll probably give Matvei Petrov a chance to see what he can do at the NHL level for the first time in a while. Although Stenberg is another option, and Stenberg did play well for us when he was up. Actually, we're going to bring up Stenberg. Sorry, Matvei, didn't mean to get your hopes up. And the Islanders have continued to play well in the month of February, going 6-2-1, but the playoff situation is really crazy. You look at the Metropolitan Division here, and we have 5 teams separated by 4 points between winning the division and being out of the playoffs. And actually, the Hurricanes are only 2 points behind. So 6 teams separated by 6 points with about 20-plus games to go. The big advantage that the Islanders do have is that we've only played 58 games, so we have games in hand against every other team in the Metropolitan Division right now. Hopefully that will enable us to get into the playoffs, but it's becoming a closer battle than we would have expected. But right now, if the season were to end today, we would be in the playoffs as a wild card. But the hope is obviously to be better than that, and we've got about a month and a half in the regular season left to make sure that that's the case. The nice thing about the addition of Zibanejad is that we now have one of the top scorers in the league on our team, even though most of that production was with the Rangers. It's a bit curious that they even had him on the trading block, given that they're also competing for a playoff spot with us and that they would trade him to us, but we were more willing to eat that big contract next year when he's 36 years old. So I guess the Rangers really wanted to get out of that contract for next year. Hopefully it will be a difference maker for us as we continue our push towards the playoffs. Well, we're into April. The Islanders hit a decent March, 8-6-2 over the last month. We're going to make the playoffs, but right now the goal would be still to get on top of the Metropolitan Division. We're 2 points behind the Flyers at this point. 8 games to go. Goal would certainly be to win the Metropolitan Division, and certainly would still love to have a 100-point season, which is going to require probably 5, certainly 6 wins would get us there. 5 and a overtime loss would also get us there. So hopefully we can finish up the season well and position ourselves well for a good playoff run. It would be nice to get to the number one seed coming out of the Metropolitan Division, even though simply based on record, the Atlantic Division appears to be a stronger part of the Eastern Conference this season. And a brutal injury for the Islanders. Mika Zibanejad out for at least 3 weeks, so going to be out for this final push towards the playoffs at the end of the regular season. We've lost 2 in a row, although one of them we at least got a point there against the Stars. Looking at the standings, we've got 90 points right now, which puts us second in the Metropolitan Division. But looking at the wild card standings, we're literally only a point out of, being in the Eastern Conference wild card and 4 points out of missing the playoffs. So we should still get into the playoffs, but the, loss of Zibanejad for these last 6 games certainly is not going to help us. But and obviously, if we do get into the playoffs, we'll probably be missing him for the first round series. So definitely not optimal that the player who we brought on to help in the playoffs push will not be available for the playoff push. Did play well for us with 5 goals and 20 points in his 27 games with the Islanders. Hopefully he can bounce back from this separated shoulder in relatively short order, and hopefully the Islanders will still be playing when that happens. Well, we're headed into the final week of the regular season. You can see the Islanders with 92 points. Increasingly, it's going to be difficult for us to catch the Flyers for first place in the Metropolitan Division. But we are, 6 points up on having a playoff spot against the Blue Jackets. So we actually have a critical game on the road at Columbus right now. Schedule is really not favorable. 4 of our last 5 games are on the road: Columbus, Carolina, Pittsburgh, and the Rangers in the season finale. But we will be hosting Columbus on Saturday. Hopefully we will have the playoff spot wrapped up long before then, but that home game against them could be critical if things go poorly for us over the next few days. And we'll start to see how those things go by playing this game at Columbus. And we got a 9-1 victory there, so a huge win for the Islanders as we're trying to make this playoff push. Let's see what happens now with Carolina. If we can win this one, we may just about have things clinched if we're able to win that one on the road. And we do get a 3-1 win there. So now looking at the standings, we have 6 games, or potentially 6 points to go, only 3 games left. Looking at the wild card standings, Columbus can only get up to 94 points. So we are in the playoffs. Now it's just all a matter of seeding. It's going to be difficult for us to catch the Flyers up on us by 3 points, and we both have 3 games to go, and we will not be playing them at all. So that's going to be a real tough chore for us, but we'll see what happens. With 3 games left, we've got a chance to get to 100 points, which would, doesn't mean it's a great season, but at least it's a nice round number that we would hopefully get over. And we've got 2 games left now. We lost our last game against Pittsburgh, so we are not going to be able to catch the Flyers for the division title. And we're actually now a point behind the Capitals for second place in the Metropolitan Division, but we've got a game in hand on them. So hopefully we can beat Columbus here at home and then finish with a win against the Rangers as we look to conclude the regular season and hopefully get into a situation where we can still score 100 points on the year if we win both of these games. And we got the win against the Blue Jackets. Let's see what we can do against the Rangers here in the final game of the regular season. And we got the win against the Rangers too. So it was a nip and tuck whether we were going to get there or not this year, but we did get to 100 points on the regular season, second place in the Metropolitan Division. Not as successful a regular season for the Islanders as we've had in the past several seasons. You can see that there are 600-point teams in the Eastern Conference, and we rank 6th in the Eastern Conference in terms of scoring. Only 100-point team in the West, the Vancouver Canucks, second in all of hockey, behind only the Red Wings, who had 122 points. So it's been a bit more of a challenging regular season for the Islanders than we've been used to. We're going to have a tough playoff matchup against a 100-point team in the first round of the playoffs. So it's going to be a challenge for us. Savoy is still out indefinitely. Zibanejad out with that separated shoulder for 1 to 2 weeks. So he's going to miss most, if not all, of this upcoming series. And Dobson's still out for 1 to 2 months. So the Islanders are not as strong as we have been in previous years, but this is still a battle-tested team with a great record in the playoffs, and we are going to see what we can pull together in our next episode. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're enjoying the series, and hope you have a great day.